Today's My Thoughts Monday is brought to you by GymAware, the leading tool when measuring performance in the weight room. Guys, VBT is all the craze right now. It's a hot, sexy topic, although it's something that's been around for a while. And the man who wrote the book on velocity-based training, Brian Mann, has called the GymAware the Rolls Royce when it comes to velocity measuring devices. Guys, the ability for you to shoot all your information right up into the cloud and store it right away is enough for me right there to make sure that this is something that I had in my weight room. Putting things together with instant feedback as to how the reps are being performed. On top of that, with the x-axis correction, so you don't have to necessarily worry about direct positioning when you're performing the exercises. Tying that in with the visualization of everything and the ability to allow the athletes to compete. Make this an absolutely stellar tool and something I couldn't recommend you having in your weight room enough. Hop on over to kinetic.com.au today and see everything that they have to offer. Hey everybody, if you enjoy the podcast and the content it provides, be sure to hop over and check out the community. The community is an exclusive members website that is just an extension of what we do here in July at the Central Virginia Sport Performance Seminar. What it is a combination of video lectures, a coach's corner with your Monday morning take-home information, and a forum where you can talk about anything and everything related to the field of strength and conditioning. In the community, you'll find content added each month from some of the top practitioners in the world, ranging from PhDs to high-level coaches, bringing you exactly what they're doing with their athletes or their research at the present moment. On top of that, an additional discussion by coaches bringing you that Monday morning information, things that you can add to your training program right away. Tying that in with the opportunity to discuss with coaches around the world in the forum on anything and everything from the topics addressed in these presentations to whatever you're seeing in your daily life as a coach. If this sounds like the right thing for you and your staff, go ahead and hop over to cvasps.com/community and try it out for 48 hours for just $1. If you like it, you're signed up, ready to roll, and you're jumping into all the great content added each month. If not, feel free to go ahead and cancel at any time. No questions asked. We're really excited about what we're building in the community and hope you are too. Go ahead and hop over to cvasps.com/community and check it out today. Hey guys, what's happening? DeMayo coming at you with this week's edition of My Thoughts Monday. And today, I would like to talk with you guys a little bit about a conversation that we had with our interns a week ago where we were discussing the idea of building from the general to the specific. Now, this idea is something that we talk about quite often, and it's something that we look at, and it's something that, to be totally honest, a lot of coaches kind of debate, because when you're looking at it through the strength and conditioning model, right, we can look at it as that simple triangle with the general on the bottom, and you work your way up more and more to the specific. Now, depending on whose philosophy or model you follow, there's different levels and different names for that, right? You know, there's Bondarchuk's model, and there's a whole bunch of different ones where they classify each level of training. Now, what we say typically as strength coaches is that tip of the iceberg up there is for the sport coaches. That's the game, that's practice, that's the stuff we don't impact. But what we do is we build a big general base. And I'm down with that, and I get that. But I think that we could maybe look at it a little differently. And we talked with our interns about just that. And I'm looking at it more kind of as a track model moved over into strength and conditioning. So how does that work, right? Well, in track and field athletics, whatever we're going to refer to it as right now, you're either looking at distance, height, or time. And the clock doesn't lie, the tape measure doesn't lie, and the bar that you're jumping over doesn't lie. So we know if we got better or not. Like that, we have the ultimate litmus test, right, with what we're doing. So when we're sitting there and looking at things, we know that if we build from the general, that we move up to things that have greater transfer to your 100 or your 200 or your hurdles or your javelin throw or whatever it is that you're doing, right? So when we take that idea from track and field, we can, I think, look at it in a similar sense with how we look at and we evaluate and we set up the training for our athletes. We're really, really good at the general, okay? So we don't really need to mess with that much. But what if there was a way to have a specific, right? you look at a lot of people that a lot of coaches have a lot of respect for. And they're going to have a multitude of tests that they're going to look at. And they're going to be able to determine what are the means and the standard deviations of these different tests. So like your strength tests, your power tests, your speed tests, your fitness tests, whatever you're looking at, all of those things. And they'll be able to look at what players who were really successful in that sport have, or players who have been successful at that institution or team that you work with, or just athletes that you've worked with in general that have had better success. And then you could also know that, things that athletes that weren't as successful, and where those kind of all fit in. You can look at them versus the team. And we've all seen those, right? Those pentagon or those hexagon spider graphs where they flow in and out, and there's different layers that it shows, like whether you're in the mean or you're above the mean or below the mean or whatever on each one of these tests. Well, now, maybe what the specific needs to be for that athlete is to improve that test. So instead of sitting here and saying we're going to do all this general stuff and train all these general things that really for us more often than not revolve around maximal strength, and we're going to continue to build this really, really big base and hope it carries over, well, now we can maybe look at what these kids are doing and find better ways to improve those things that they need to improve on, or improve the things that make them like the superstar already, right? Like if you've got a kid who's elastic, springy, bouncy, but they can't squat a ton, maybe squatting a ton isn't necessarily what they need. Maybe what they're really good at is what makes them really good, and you don't want to mess that up. So, there's 100 ways you could look at it. But we start and we look, instead of looking from the general up, we look at it like we build our training plan. Our taper point or our season ending or wherever we end it, and we work our way back. Well, now we can start here and look at what's important and what this individual needs to improve on and work our way back so that all we're doing is working to build to this getting better, which is now our specific. Right? Now, I can hear people saying this right away. But Jay, we know that general training is going to have a great carryover to a multitude of qualities for untrained or low-trained individuals. You're right. Of course you're right. And that's important. But with that, how much of that general do we need, right? Because we know, what we don't know, is if building a bigger base is actually going to allow the pyramid to be higher. Or if all we're doing is building a bigger base and making it go from a triangle or a pyramid to a trapezoid. All we know is that bottom's getting bigger out to the side. We don't know if it's going up or not, because if we're saying that there's not direct correlation between what we do and outputs on the field, then we need to be careful how big we make that box if it's not going to carry over. Because if we're going to say that making the general bigger makes the specific better, then we can't say what we do doesn't have direct carryover to the field. So I propose this idea. Maybe now we start talking more about training for the specific quality that we need to improve upon so that we can build that way. Now, I'm not saying that even your general stuff has to be training directly towards that, because, obviously, most people know me as like the 1x20 guy, right? So we do a lot of multi-joint, like every joint action, all of that in the general phase. But as you progress, things need to move closer and closer and closer and closer to things that have direct carryover and direct impact on what we're trying to evaluate. So that's what we're trying to do. I don't know if it's going to work or not. I'm really excited about it, and I think that it's going to be a lot of fun to figure it out. As always, I'd love your input. I'd love your thoughts on this, because I don't know if this is as different or unique of an idea as I think it is, or if this is something that I'm misinterpreting things that people have been saying too. And if I am misinterpreting what people have been saying, I'd really like to know that. If this is unique and you think this is a good idea and you have an idea of how we could do it better, I would really love to hear that. And if there's a reason why you think that I'm completely bonkers and I'm wrong, I'd like to hear that too, because I'd really rather not go through all the work of developing all this if it's not going to work. So That's what we're thinking, guys. We're going to treat it like a GPS. Instead of starting with the general, which is where we're starting, right? And just going from there and trying to find the specific, we're going to start with a specific because we know where the general is already. Just like our phone knows where we are already when we plug in the GPS for where we're going. As always, guys, I appreciate you taking the time to listen, and I appreciate everything you do for us here at Central Virginia Sport Performance. We'll be back next week with another My Thoughts Monday. We'll see you then.